All right, awesome. Right on, guys. Welcome. Good stuff. Hey, Mitch. Hey, Thomas. Good to see you guys. Hey, Chris.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Good to see you.
Awesome.
Good deal. All right, we got a couple more joining us. Very cool. Very cool. Right on. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Matt, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Good to see you guys. Awesome. Well, welcome to the start of our free 14-day challenge, guys. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to connecting with each of you guys tonight. I know that we have a few guys that are a little bit late to the party that are still trying to find the room and get settled, and a couple people still kind of logging in. So maybe just while we give them an extra minute to get settled here, maybe we could start by just dropping a note in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from today. It's always interesting to see. I know we got guys from all over the place: Canada, the US, West Coast. Right on. We got some Saskatoon boys in the house for sure, for sure. Yeah, a couple Saskatoon. Yeah. Hey, is that Waddy I see there?
Yeah, man. How you doing?
Hey, right on. Nice to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
Good stuff, guys. Awesome. Very cool. A couple guys logging in right now. We got Ontario, Canada. We got Mumbai. Awesome. Representing. Very cool. Alberta, Saskatoon. Right on. Awesome, guys. I know a couple of BC boys in the house here too. Yeah, Chris, where are you? You're Kelowna, are you? Yeah, okay, yeah. Tyler in BC here too. Awesome, guys. Right on. Cranbrook. Very cool. Well, welcome, guys. Hey, just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started here. We found over the years that the people who have their cameras on and engage with the material ultimately get more out of this experience. And because of that, they end up getting better results. So if it's at all possible to turn your cameras on, follow along, engage with the material, and participate to the fullest extent. And you'll be glad that you did. Cool. And the other thing is, if you guys have a pen and a paper handy, I would highly suggest that you grab one and keep it nearby. And the reason I say that is we're going to be covering a fair amount of ground tonight, and you're probably going to want to take some notes. Okay. Mentor of mine said a long time ago, he said, if it's worth remembering, it's worth writing down. And that little bit of advice has served me well in the past. So, all right. Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Matthew Jacob Jodwin. I'm a certified men's coach and mindset mentor, and I've been certified since 2014. So this year actually marks an entire decade that I've been working as a coach, which is pretty cool and something I'm kind of excited about, a little milestone to celebrate. But my job is to help guys like you create a life with less stress, less worry, less doubt, less frustration, less fear. You know, my job is to help guys like you create a life with more fun, more fulfillment, more freedom, more free time. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah, I'll tell you, it's a pretty sweet job, let me tell you. But let me ask you, just by a show of hands here, who here would like a life with less stress and less worry? Couple guys for sure, right? Well, what about a life with more fun and more free time, possibly even a little bit more just fulfillment? Yeah, 100%, right? For sure. Well, tonight I'm going to show you how you can start to do exactly that. Okay. So I want tonight to be interactive and to be engaging. And so, if you guys have questions or you have comments, feel free to throw it in the chat. or unmute yourself and just throw it out there. There's going to be an opportunity to ask some questions and have some discussions as we go. And if I don't get any volunteers, I'm afraid to kind of like call on some people. And I got a few people in mind that I might just need to call on tonight. So right on, guys. Well, hey, let's do it, shall we? Good stuff. Well, it's a little bit of a paradoxical time that we live in today. And what I mean by that is that, like, on the one hand, we're doing better than many parts of the world. Most of our basic needs are being taken care of. We got access to food, shelter, clothing, clean drinking water. We got more access to information and opportunities than any other point in history with the invention of the internet. Statistically speaking, people are living longer and healthier than at any other time throughout history. The media might have you believing otherwise, but the truth is that we are, But at the same time, I feel like a lot of people, a lot of men specifically, are kind of like stuck in survival mode, so stressed or just like struggling to get through the day that we're just trying to make it through to the weekend in some cases. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't want my life to be a struggle. I don't want to be just surviving. I want to feel like I'm thriving. You know what I mean? But a life like that doesn't just happen by default. A life like that needs to be designed on purpose and with intention. You know what I mean? And, I took the opportunity to do a little bit of some research in preparation for this call, and I found some statistics that, in my opinion, are kind of a little bit alarming. Okay. And I'm going to pull this up here. You guys let me know when you guys can see this. Maybe just give me a thumbs up here. Can you guys see this okay? Yeah, let me make this a little smaller. Can you guys see this up on the whiteboard?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect. I'll go through this together with you guys. But some statistics that I found that I think, in my opinion, are a little bit alarming and kind of sad, to be honest with you. But like when you look at it, inflation rates have gone up 16% in the last 4 years, which is crazy. And people talk a lot about like the cost of living, the cost of groceries. I'm sure you guys have noticed has gone up. The cost of gasoline, right? The cost of housing, like the cost of living is just going through the roof. You know what I mean? Not surprisingly, you get statistics like this too, where a poll recently suggests that most people are chronically stressed. In fact, about 75% of people polled reported experiencing levels of stress that affect their physical and their mental well-being. Not surprising considering some of this, You may be familiar with the statistic that about half of all marriages end in divorce, right? Now, I'm not even suggesting that, divorce is always a bad thing, but I think it's fair to say that, divorce certainly lends itself to like, some mental and emotional challenges, maybe some added financial pressure or stress, And then, you oftentimes will find ourselves like engaging in escapist behaviors or negative coping mechanisms. And, the average is that the average person spends 3 to 4 hours per day on their phone, just scrolling, and that's not even taking into account time spent on the computer or in front of other screens like their TV, watching Netflix or Prime or everything else. I guess statistics are that 30% of Canadian adults are classified as obese, right? And the thing is, like, we've all got our like coping mechanisms, right? Whether it be food, social media, right? Drugs or alcohol, sometimes maybe like porn, but it could be work and things of that nature too, But here's the thing: drugs and alcohol are being consumed at alarming rates to combat mental and emotional disorders like depression, stress, and anxiety. And statistically, suicide rates are at a 30-year high. And studies are suggesting that that's gone up significantly since COVID. And that's probably, not news to you guys, but the truth is, man, that these days I think it's hard to be a man, hard to be a dad, hard to be a husband, hard to be a guy sometimes, isn't it? Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Some of you are probably sitting there and thinking, wow, my life's not that bad, or I'm doing pretty good. And, that's great. I hope that that's true. Okay. But I'll caution you. And the word of caution here is that there's a danger in playing the comparison game. All right. And what I mean by that is, like, no matter which way you slice it, it's a losing game. And like, if you're comparing yourself to people who are further ahead in their career or years ahead in life, who are maybe a little bit more quote unquote successful, you're probably going to feel like you're chasing, or that you're just trying to play catch up, or like, trying to, what do they say? Trying to keep up with the Joneses. You know what I mean? Alternatively, if you're comparing yourself to people who are worse off than you, and sometimes it's easy to convince ourselves, well, I'm not that bad. I don't need to change. You know what I mean? And sometimes, like honestly, I think that's why shows like Jerry Springer and like My 600-Pound Life or Honey Boo Boo or like Half the Garbage that you see on TV is so popular these days. Because you can literally just like watch something like that and you can feel pretty good about where you're at. You can tell yourself, well, I'm not that bad. I don't need to change. Now, I think the question is, well, could things be better? And I think the answer to that is pretty obvious. Like, yeah, things could be better. It could always be better, couldn't it? You could be a better parent, a better partner, a better leader, right? You could be a bit faster, stronger, smarter. You could do more, have more, or be more. Am I right? The opportunity to improve is always there. In fact, as human beings, I truly believe that we have an innate desire to learn and to grow and to improve. And when we're making progress in life, or when we're learning and when we're growing and when we're improving, that's when we're filled with feelings of like joy, aren't we? That's fulfilling. It's rewarding. Like, it's a very uplifting experience. In fact, Tony Robbins once famously said that progress equals happiness. And I think that summarizes that whole concept really well. Progress equals happiness. And I'll tell you, if you're not making progress in life, okay, if you've kind of plateaued at a certain point, that's probably when you're going to feel like you're feeling stuck in a rut. Maybe feel like you're spinning your wheels, where you're working really hard, but not getting anywhere fast. You know what I mean? So let me ask you guys, like, if I asked you to identify an area of your life that maybe you'd like to improve, would you be able to come up with one or two? Maybe it's like your health or your fitness, maybe your relationships, maybe your finances. Could be your habits, or maybe just mindset in general. Or maybe it's a little bit of all of it. You know what I mean? What do you think? Just a show of hands here. Anything come to mind? Are you guys thinking, yeah, I know off the top of my head right away, there's a couple things that I could improve. Yeah. Would you guys be willing to you don't have to be specific, but maybe drop a note in the chat and let us know, like, what's on your mind? Where could you use some improvement? Is it your fitness? Is it your mindset? Is it your finances? Yeah, health and fitness, all of the above, starting with mindset, fitness, positive mindset. Cool. Yeah, all of the ones you just mentioned. fitness, mindset. Yeah, health and work, life balance, mindset. Yeah, totally. Right on, guys. All of the above, finances. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, I have more than been there. What I mean by that is like looking back to 2009, like there was pretty much every major area of my life could stand to use some improvement. And at the time, I was overweight, out of shape. I was flat broke. Okay. I was in a dead end job. I was fresh out of a long-term relationship. I was sleeping on a fold-out couch. I was riding my longboard to work. Okay. And to be honest with you, I was drinking and doing drugs on the daily. Okay. And that was just kind of how I lived my life. Right. Until one day when I saw a photograph of myself. When I saw that photograph of myself, I'll tell you, it was like a punch to the gut. And the reason I say that is because it was like a wake-up call. And I didn't even recognize the person looking back at me. Okay. And the truth is, I was ashamed at who I had let myself become. Okay. And it was right then and there that I vowed to make some changes. And I drew a line in the sand and I decided I was not going to continue to live that way anymore. And it was shortly after that that I found a mentor and I found somebody who taught me what I needed to know and what I needed to do in order to get better results. Okay. And now, as I stand here before you today, my life looks completely different. One, I'm married to an amazing woman. Okay. We've got two awesome little boys. I'm self-employed. I get to wake up every day excited about what I do and who I get to work with. Like I work with some super inspiring guys, people. Okay. And, I'm arguably in the best shape of my life. And at 40, I'm in better shape at 40 than I was at 20. You know, I'm also like working less and earning more than I ever have. And we just recently moved to one of the most beautiful parts in the world, in my opinion. It was up here in Canada on the west coast on Vancouver Island. But let me be really clear about this, okay? I'm not sharing this with you guys to impress you, okay? I'm sharing this with you to impress upon you what's possible. And I promise you that there is absolutely nothing that's like unique or special about me. And I know for a fact that if this mindset stuff works for me, it will absolutely work for anybody. Okay. Anybody. But let me ask you guys, like, just by a show of hands here, how many of you guys, or maybe you know somebody who's either set a goal for yourself, maybe it was a New Year's resolution to start to exercise more or to eat better, or maybe like cut back on your drinking or your smoking, or maybe save a little bit more money, but you always found that you ended up right back where you started. Anybody ever experienced that? To a certain extent? Yeah. It's pretty common actually, isn't it? For sure. Well, if you really want to make true, lasting, sustainable change for the long term, it helps to know a little something about the mind. Okay. Helps to know a little something about the mind. Now, some of the time I want to be working with a new client or a prospective person, I'll ask them, I'll say, you're aware that you have a human mind, hey? People always kind of get a kick out of that question. And they think, yeah, of course I am. And sometimes I'll get some funny looks, so they'll laugh at me. Yeah, what kind of joker is this? Of course I'm aware I have a human mind. And then I'll ask a follow-up question. And I'll say, well, how much do you know about your mind? Ooh. And sometimes, it's in that moment where they realize, maybe I don't actually know as much about my own mind as I thought. And I just think that's fascinating. And the reason I say that is because you guys, we are in possession of one of the most powerful and advanced pieces of biological technology known to mankind. Okay. This thing is responsible for all of our decision making, right? It's also responsible for helping us to create not only ourselves, but our entire life. And most people, one, don't know much about it, and two, don't know how to use it to ensure optimal results. I just think that that's really interesting. Most people are walking around just kind of like doing their thing with no idea how to use it. Chris, you're a helicopter pilot, aren't you? Yeah, Chris here's a helicopter pilot. Would you ever suggest to somebody like myself that hop in a helicopter and take off without reading the user manual or having some training in how to fly a helicopter and land it safely?
Never.
Never. It wouldn't be very wise, would it?
No. You'd
No.
never get it off the ground. You'd kill
Yeah,
yourself.
you probably never get it off the ground. Right. And yet here we are going about our day and doing our thing without ever really understanding or reading the user's manual or knowing much about how to operate this device. Isn't that kind of interesting, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Well, hey, if you guys are up for it, I'm going to show you a little something here. Going to do a little exercise here that I call Mindset 101, and we'll just do a quick little crash course. And the reason is because if you're really looking to create lasting, sustainable change in your life, it helps to know a little something about the mind. Okay. And can you guys see this image okay? Can you guys see the whiteboard? Yeah. Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So this is an image that was invented by a man named Dr. Thurman Fleet back in 1937. Okay. And this image is meant to represent two things. Okay. First, it's meant to represent the human mind, because as human beings, we think in pictures, and the mind is different than the brain. Okay. And so this is an image that's meant to represent the mind. It also helps us to understand how thought energy moves through a human being. I'm not sure if any of you guys have ever considered the fact that thought is a form of energy, but it is. And the reason that's helpful to understand is because while all energy operates according to law, and just like electricity, once you understand how it works, you can harness it. And once you learn how to harness it, you can use it to create an intended outcome or a specific result. Okay. So this image helps us to understand the human mind. Now, psychology tells us that the human mind consists of two parts. Okay. And you guys might be familiar with these terms, but we have our conscious mind, right? And we also have our what? Somebody throw it out there.
Subconscious.
Right. We have our subconscious. Bingo. Okay. Now, our conscious mind is oftentimes referred to as your thinking mind, or your logical mind, or your educated mind. Okay. This is the part of your mind that you go to school for, that you read books for, that you fill with all kinds of facts and figures and data and information. Okay. Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, is oftentimes referred to as your feeling mind, sometimes your emotional mind. Now, depending on the circles that you run in, it's also referred to as your universal mind. Okay. Now, just kind of real basic psychological premise here, guys. Your thoughts control your feelings. And that's why when you guys have a happy thought, we typically have a corresponding happy emotion, don't we? Right. Now, your feelings go on to influence the actions that you take, or in some cases don't take. Okay. And depending on the actions that you're taking, or maybe not taking, it's going to produce a specific result in your life. Would you guys agree?
Mm-hmm.
You guys with me so far? Okay. So here's the thing. If you would like a different result in your life, and don't get me wrong here, this applies to our finances as much as it applies to our fitness, our relationships, and our career. If you would like a different result in your life, it stands to reason that you really just got to go back and do one thing. Go to the source and change your thoughts. And they say that, when you change your thoughts, you change your life. And it's true. And this is why it's true, because it kind of has a domino effect. When you change your thoughts, it changes your feelings, which inspires you to take different actions. Okay. And then based on those different actions, it produces a different result. It's the law of cause and effect, right?
Hey, Matt, can I ask you a question?
You bet.
What if it's reversed? What if
What do you
your
mean?
actions control your feelings that control your thoughts?
Then you're letting the outside world determine your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. Essentially, you're giving up control and assuming the role of a victim. You know what I mean?
So in that scenario, and what I'm referring to is I really struggle with depression. It's always,
Okay.
The last 10 years I've kind of slowly got it under control with different ways and medications. But the one thing that I can result in changing my thought process is going to work.
Right.
So if I go to work, I feel good and my thought process gets back to a positive.
Okay.
So that's why I say I'm looking at it backwards, is because it's the actions I take that change my feelings that
Right.
promotes that positive thought process.
Right. Yeah.
So when you're having those dark days and you're having those struggles with your thoughts, it controls your feelings and your actions. So another course you and I did, that's where I said I have that switch and I
Right.
have to shut that off where my personal life doesn't get involved when I step into the aircraft and go to work. Like that, there's not 1% of my personal life that can be involved in my decision making when I'm in that aircraft.
Right. You got to be dialed in and focused.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I find it very strange with myself is learning is my actions can really control my thought process.
Right. And yeah, so I don't disagree with what you're saying. And let me say this back to you just to see if I'm on the right track here. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. So your thoughts control your feelings. 100%. Are we in agreement there?
100%.
Okay. Now here's the thing. It's a two-way street.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that your actions and how we use our physical body and the steps that we're taking are actually a very, very powerful tool that we can also use to go up this way and change the way that we feel. And I oftentimes will use exercise as a good example. But
Yep.
when I use my body in a physical way and I exert myself physically, it has a physiological effect that changes the way that I feel. And it also changes the way that I think. Does that answer your question? Is that?
Yeah. And it makes me think because when I'm having a bad day, that's the first thing I go to do is hit the gym. And when I walk
Right.
into the gym, I'm not in a good mood. I don't want to be there, but that is 99% of the battle is just getting there. And within 10 minutes of being there and doing something, that mood quickly changes. And by the time you walk out, you're not even close to being the person that walked in.
100%, right? Yeah. And there's different things for different people or different ways that you can go about that. Sometimes it's a strenuous exercise. Sometimes it's just a walk in the park or outside.
Yep. But
But
that's the gym. Like you don't need to go and lift weights. You can get on a treadmill. You can, go to the stretch room and just stretch. And it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be a exorbitant amount of energy released. It's just changing your environment and doing something completely different. Really, like there's lots of times at work, I just got to go for a walk.
right.
Like just
Yeah.
get the blood going, get that stagnant blood moving and change the energy.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you. And I think that there's several different ways that you could go about that. But I think that, when it comes down to it, it's like when I think better, I feel better.
Yep.
And when I feel better, I do better. But again, it's like a two-way street. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that now.
Yeah. Was that helpful, Chris?
Big time. Thanks, dude.
Right on. Okay. So, what I was saying here is that if you'd like a different result in life, you just got to go back and, change your thoughts, because it has this domino effect that when you change your thoughts, it changes your feelings, which inspires you to take different actions, which produces a different result. Okay. But here's the thing, easier said than done sometimes. Am I right? And, this is where it gets interesting, you guys. Okay. The challenge here is, of course, that, there's some debate as to how many thoughts the average person has in a day. Okay. But most people would agree that the average person has somewhere in the realm of 60 to 70,000 thoughts in a day. Okay. It sounds a lot. And so I know some people are thinking, oh man, my mind's all over the place. Like I got ADHD and like I got a million thoughts going through my head. Okay. But on average, it's about 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. And it sounds like a lot until you realize that of those thoughts, about 95% of them are repetitive. Meaning that the vast majority of the thoughts that you think today are also the same thoughts that you had yesterday and the day before that and the day before that and the day before that. And let me tell you, if you think for a second that your life has anything to do with the thoughts that you think, well, the truth is that your future probably isn't going to look a whole lot different than your past unless you start thinking different thoughts. Am I right? Of those 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, about 80% of them are typically negative. Okay. Now, whether you're willing to admit that to yourself or not, that's statistically true, in the sense that most of our pattern of thinking is usually ones of either stress or worry or fear, or it could be like complaining or criticizing either other people or even yourself, and just some of that like negative self-talk. Out of a curiosity, show of hands here, anybody ever catch themselves repeating things that are just negative and unhelpful comments to themselves, some negative self-talk? Sure, to a certain extent. Hey, now the other thing is, get this, of those 60,000 thoughts, about 95% of them are unconscious, meaning most people aren't even necessarily aware of what they're thinking. They're just kind of like going through their day, doing their thing. And there's a term that's called metacognition. Okay. Metacognition is the term that we use to describe the process of becoming more aware of some of those unconscious thought patterns, just bringing them to our level of attention, just becoming aware of them. Okay. Now, some people, sometimes I'll hear things like, well, knowledge is power. You guys ever hear that statement? Knowledge is power. Yeah. Well, the truth is that, it's true to a certain extent. Okay. But the truth is that knowledge is only potential power. Real knowledge is only powerful when it's applied. And let me tell you guys, there's usually a very big difference between what people know and what people do. Would you agree? For sure. There's usually a very big difference between what people know and what people do. And like, here's the thing. I'll oftentimes say, like, man, you could walk up to a 400, 500 pound person walking down the street and you could ask them, like, what would you need to do in order to lose weight? They could tell you, couldn't they? No. You only have to do a couple of things. You only have to exercise, right? Increase your activity level and decrease the food intake, right? But that's not necessarily what most people do. Okay? Do you guys want to know why that is? Anybody curious? You guys like me to tell you? Yeah. The reason is really simple. It's because we're not logical creatures. Now, this might come as a surprise to some people, because as human beings, we love thinking that we're super logical. We got a reason for everything. But the truth is that we're not logical creatures. We're biological. And what that does is it causes us to act emotionally. Okay. And in fact, if you guys get nothing else out of this time together, except for this awareness or this understanding, I will consider this a win. But get this, as human beings, we do not make decisions logically, okay? We make decisions emotionally. Yeah, Rajiv says that's an aha moment. Get this, Rajiv. We do not make decisions logically. We make decisions emotionally based on how we're feeling in the moment. And then what we do as human beings, we have a tendency to go back and we layer on logic after the fact to justify our decision to ourselves, to rationalize it and make ourselves feel better about the choices we made or the decisions that we made or the behavior that we took. You might be able to recognize that when it comes to other people in your life, but the truth is that we all do it, okay? In fact, most people are surprised to learn this, but your conscious thinking mind is really only responsible for about 5% of what you do. It's kind of crazy when you really think about it, because that tells me that, you know, if my deductive reasoning is accurate here, that our subconscious mind is actually responsible for about 95% of what we do. Some people think it's even more. It's closer to that 98% range. It's wild, isn't it? A little scary. You start to think about it, you know, but it's true that most of our behavior is controlled by our subconscious mind. And down here, we have our feelings, okay? But we also have things like our habits, okay? We also have things like our beliefs. Now, most people, you know, are unconscious or they're not very aware of what our beliefs are until somebody asks you. And even then, you know, sometimes you might have a hard time articulating it, okay? But we also have a little thing called a paradigm. Are you guys familiar with that term at all? Have you heard that term in the past? Paradigm. So for anybody who's not familiar with that term, a paradigm is essentially what you can think of as like, it's a belief system, or it's like a framework for how you view the world, okay? And a large part of your paradigm is right here, called your self-image. Now, this is going to be really important here, guys. And if you guys got that pen and paper handy, I'd encourage you to bust that out and write this down, okay? But what I would encourage you to write is that you cannot outperform your self-image. You cannot outperform your self-image, okay? And the reason I say that is because your self-image, it operates exactly like a thermostat, okay? And what I mean is, like, I'm sure most of you guys have a understanding of how a thermostat works, but you know, right now the thermostat in your room is set to a specific set point. Am I right? Right. And the temperature of the room itself, it might fluctuate a little bit up and down, you know, depending on the outside temperature and if there's windows and doors open. But that thermostat is set to ensure that the temperature of the room kind of stays within this band of comfort. You feel me? Okay. AKA your comfort zone. And your self-image operates exactly the same way. And your results in life might fluctuate a little bit up and down, okay? But your self-image works around the clock to ensure that you stay within this band of comfort, your comfort zone, okay? And unless you change your self-image, or unless you change or create what's called a paradigm shift, we will always, and I repeat, always find a way to unconsciously self-sabotage and revert back to old patterns and old habits to ensure that we come back to that specific set point, okay? And the reason is, and you guys might want to write this down too, is that one of the strongest forces in human nature is the desire to remain consistent with who we believe ourselves to be. I'll say this again, but one of the strongest forces in human nature is this desire to remain consistent with who we believe ourselves to be. Okay. And this is why people, if you've ever known anybody, or maybe you've tried this yourself to lose weight, start exercising more, change up your nutrition, get in better shape. Okay. What typically happens to those people in those kinds of situations? You know, maybe they see some results in the short term, right? You know, start exercising more, they lose a little bit of a weight. But then more often than not, what happens? Somebody unmute themselves and throw it out there. What happens typically?
Get back to the normal self.
Sorry, say that again.
Get back to the original self.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they get back to their original self. They usually put it all back on again, in some cases, even more, don't they? But get this, you guys. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Thing is muscle weighs more than fat. So if we're going to go in there and we're going to start crushing it, we got to be careful with our diets, not just our exercise.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
Because
And
you
you know,
lose that.
the number on the scale isn't always a complete picture. You're right. You know, there's, you know, waist circumference, there's body composition, there's BMI, you know, all sorts of different things that you could take into account. You're right. But statistically, if you look at it, most people who try to change their exercise or their nutrition, maybe experience a little bit of progress in the short term, it usually is out the window after a few weeks, you know, and they revert back to old patterns and old habits. But here's the thing, guys, this happens on the top end too. And what I mean is that, like, you know, maybe some of you guys are familiar with the statistic that, you know, what happens to people who win the lottery? You guys ever hear about this? Yeah, the statistic is that about 70% of people who win the lottery ultimately end up filing for bankruptcy within 3 years. And you might wonder, what the heck? How is that even possible? But the truth is that what happens is now their external results, their money or their bank account, no longer reflects their beliefs about who they are and what they think they deserve. You see this with athletes and stuff too. And they'll unconsciously find a way to burn through the cash. And they self-sabotage and revert back to ensuring that they continue to get the same old results. Right? Now, again, it's easy to look at other people and say, oh yeah, I know so-and-so that they do that all the time. You know, they go hard in the gym and then they're back on the, you know, couch in the Cheetos train. But again, we're all subject to this in our own way. Now, here's the thing. There are only two specific ways that you can create a shift in your paradigm or to create what's called, you know, changing your self-image, okay? The first is what's called a strong emotional impact. A strong emotional impact. And this could take any number of different forms, okay, people? But, you know, some examples might be, you know, like a near-death experience, okay? Or it could be the loss of a loved one, or maybe a health scare. A health scare could certainly do that. In fact, I used to own a fitness facility, and I had there's one woman in particular that comes to mind that every time she came in the gym, it was like trying to pull teeth to try to get her to work out. Okay, it was a real challenge. And then she gets a phone call from her doctor saying, oh man, we got some, you know, these test results came back and we really encourage you to want to get in better shape and lose this weight. Otherwise it could be. And I'll tell you, I couldn't get her out of the gym. You know, sometimes it's those health scares that really like kick our butt into gear, isn't it? But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be a crisis. It doesn't have to be a form of like rock bottom. Okay, we can choose to make a change. And if I had the choice between a crisis or choosing before I made a change, I'm going to choose that choice every time. You know what I mean? Okay, so the second way is through what's called repetition of thought. Or I always say repetition of thought combined with elite level coaching. Okay, and again, excuse me, this could take any number of different forms. All right. There's things like affirmations or visualizations, or mental rehearsal, even something as simple as like changing your environment and your reference point will do it too. You know, you guys ever heard the phrase that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with? Most people have heard that statement. Well, it's true. And the reason it's true is because we all unconsciously begin to take on the qualities and the characteristics of the people that we spend the most time with. And if you really want to create lasting, sustainable change, you get around people who are motivated, who are driven, who are dreaming big dreams and doing big things. People who have what I would call high standards and a low tolerance for bullshit. People who aren't going to let you off the hook and accept your bullshit excuses. Because I'll tell you, I don't know if you guys are anything like me, but sometimes I can get pretty good at selling myself on my own brand of BS. You know what I mean? Anybody else pretty good at kind of letting themselves off the hook? For sure, you know? And that's why I think the importance of accountability and surrounding yourself with other like-minded people who are on a mission and headed in the same direction. All right. Now, here's the thing. Okay. Given my line of work, I have the opportunity to work with a lot of people who've tried to make change and set goals and, you know, create a difference in their life. And I've started to observe an emerging trend between people who were successful at sustaining that change and people who weren't. Okay. And I'll tell you, the 3 biggest mistakes that I see people make, I'm going to share these with you guys to ensure that you don't repeat the same thing. But the 3 biggest mistakes that I see people make is 1, they try to change everything all at once. What I mean by that is like, they want to get in better shape. So they want to start exercising. They want to start eating better. They want to cut out sugar. They want to, stop drinking. They want to start meditating. They want to do journaling. They want to do it all. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I appreciate the like enthusiasm and the ambition, but it's not hard to see that that approach might be hard to sustain. You know what I mean? The second mistake that I see people make is that, so the first is that they try to change everything all at once. The second is that they have a tendency to overcommit. Okay. Like they haven't been to the gym in 10 years, but now all of a sudden they're going to start working out 5 days a week and they're going to go for an hour every day. And typically those kinds of things, it either 1, they end up getting hurt in the gym because they're pushing themselves too hard, too far, too fast, and too soon. Okay. Or their results that they're getting aren't matching the effort that they're putting out. And so they get discouraged and they give up. Okay. And then the third mistake that I see people make is that they have a tendency to try to do it on their own. Okay. And the truth is that people who invest in either coaching or mentors or create accountability in their life ultimately achieve their goals 5 times faster than people who try to do it on their own. And the reason for that is because you are 800% more likely to follow through on a task when you're accountable to another human being. That's no small statistic. You know what I mean? So today, what we're going to do is we're going to flip the script. Okay. And we're going to do the exact opposite of all of those things. Okay. So together, what we're going to do is each of us, my suggestion, you guys can take it or leave it, would be to pick one thing. Okay. And we're going to start super small. Super small. And we're going to do what I call start small and stack wins. Start small, and maybe even write that down. It's just a little mantra for the next couple of days here. But start small and stack wins. Okay. And then the third thing that we're going to do is we're going to create an accountability group where we're going to work to hold not only ourselves accountable, but to support each other in holding each other accountable. Sound cool? All right. So here's what I'm proposing. and again, you guys can, this is a suggestion. You guys can take it or leave it. But I have compiled a short list of some ideas, okay, of some things that we could do for the next 14 days here as far as a little challenge goes. And I'm going to see if I can pull up this whiteboard again. You guys let me know when you guys can see this. Okay. Can you guys see this whiteboard? Okay, beautiful. So what I would suggest here, guys, is picking one thing that you're willing to commit to and stick with for the next 14 days, okay? Whether that be a few minutes of exercise, whether that be trying your hand at some meditation, maybe a gratitude journal, maybe reading a few pages a day, maybe some breath work or daily affirmations. Could be something like a cold shower, or maybe even something as simple as like taking a green drink. But the idea here is to start super small and make it so that like you can't fail. Okay. Again, keep in mind that, there's an author by the name of James Clear who wrote a book called Atomic Habits. One of the things that he talks about is the 2-minute rule. Okay. And if at first you're trying to establish a new habit or a new routine, it should take you less than 2 minutes to complete. And a lot of times people will kind of shrug that off. But the truth is that before you can optimize a habit, meaning like do it every day or like commit to an hour every day sort of thing, first you got to establish the habit. Just get into the rhythm of showing up every single day for a minimum of 2 minutes. Okay. So I'll give you guys a minute to kind of look at this, check this out. And then I'd like to hear from you guys as far as what, if anything, jump out at you. Or maybe you guys have some ideas of your own. Maybe there's some things that you can think of that I've failed to see. Chris, what are you thinking there, bud?
I got 4 that are highlighted.
You got 4?
Visualization is huge for me. I like that. That's definitely something that I need work on. Daily affirmations, getting that positive mindset, setting that habit to encourage yourself to, stay on the right track, keep your spirits high even when the day gets tough. Cold shower, I've been doing a lot of reading and actually watched 45 minutes of Wim Hof last night. So it's funny you bring that up. Got into a podcast with him last night. So that was something I did today, which was takes your breath away.
Right.
And visualization is and stretching. Sorry. The 4th one is stretching. I got a lot of broken bones and I'm getting up there, and it's something I need to focus and dedicate some time daily to.
Just stretching, doing a little bit of that self-care.
Yep. Even just waiting for the coffee to be made, just stretching in the kitchen, like whatever, like wherever it is, waiting for a cardio machine at the gym. I need to do more stretching. If I'm at work, using the aircraft to stretch, and different options. Quit taking the shortcut and start holding myself accountable.
Right. Okay. So let me ask you again, I like the ambition. I like the enthusiasm, but if you had to pick just one, just to caution you from overcommitting there, what's one of the ones that really jumps out at you or speaks to you the most?
Daily affirmations.
Daily affirmations?
100%.
Okay, beautiful. And is that something you have some familiarity or some experience with to this point already?
Yeah, it's actually something I've got my 10-year-old doing every morning going to work or going to school when I take him to school. So it's funny, I got him doing it, but I'm not doing it for myself.
Isn't that funny? And it's so true, man. It's one of those things that, like, again, I said, just because it's something that you're, oftentimes people will tell me things like, Well, I know that, or I've heard of that before, or yeah, I read this book and so on and so forth. But I'll tell you, there's usually a very big difference between what people know and what people do. And just because you are familiar with it doesn't necessarily mean that you're acting on it, and unless it's something that you're doing and doing consistently, I would argue that it's not something that it's something that you know of.
Yeah.
And
Like
I'm no
you,
different. I'm no different. I just had a call with Mitch just earlier this evening, and I kind of came clean and I said, man, there's some things that I know I should be doing and I'm not, and it's true for all of us. And I'm not, suggesting that I'm any different, but it's an important observation.
but you even said that earlier in this podcast, this meeting, that knowledge is power. But I have the knowledge, I'm not using it. So how powerful is it?
Right.
So I got to hold myself accountable and use that knowledge that I have to start making it powerful.
100%. Yeah. 100%. So you're going with daily affirmations, Chris?
First one I wrote down.
Okay, beautiful. I love it. All right. Who else would like to share? Anything else really jump out at you guys? Anything that you feel like you're
Yeah,
willing to commit to for the next, say, 14 days here? Jonas.
yeah, I want to come back to doing gratitudes again. Sort of like the daily affirmations, like I did it around the same time with you back in October to through to December there. But gratitudes was one that really seemed to it's had a tendency to linger. Like once you got the ball rolling with it a little bit more, right? It kind of hung around a little bit, and it really changed the mindset for like the following week, and it helped
You
improve
noticed
the
a difference when you were doing it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know why I fell off, but I want to get back on it again because it was a pleasant turnaround, right? For what was going on at the time.
Right. 100%. Sometimes I'll say it worked so good, we stopped doing it. Eh?
Yeah, it's like whenever I'm dealing with clients for like stretches and whatnot and home care, it's like just because it stopped hurting doesn't mean you get ready to quit it. So,
Right. 100%. Yeah. Well, here's the thing is those gratitudes have made a huge difference in my life. And I can't really put into words or express how much I mean that. And I think that in the past, a gratitude for me had the tendency to be an intellectual exercise. Meaning if you asked me like, what are you grateful for today? I could tell you like a couple things like my family, my house, my clients, and health and things like that. Okay. But I never really truly like allowed myself to feel the gratitude. But here's the thing, they call it a gratitude practice for a reason. And it's called a practice because the more that you do it, the better you get. And I found that the more I practice that gratitude, the more I really feel the gratitude throughout my whole day. And I noticed something that's really interesting too. And this is just a little observation that I made. But I found that the more grateful I am throughout the day, the more I was able to slow down and look around and appreciate some of the small things, that the more peace of mind I found, the more present I was, the more calm and the more patient because I was able to just kind of turn off that hustle and grind mentality and just take it all in. And that was a game changer for me. And so I honestly think that sometimes people think that gratitude is kind of like a cliche term. But I'll tell you, I always say that the people who don't believe in affirmations are also the people who aren't doing affirmations. And I say the same for gratitude practice. The people who don't believe in gratitude practices are also the people who aren't doing it. Because once you start to feel the difference. It makes a big difference. All right, Jonas, we got you down for gratitude. Cool. Who else would like to share? Anybody else willing to commit to
Yeah, I'm going to commit to journaling. I've never done it and start somewhere. So 2 to 5 minutes every day and just go from there.
Okay, beautiful journaling. And do you have a specific journal that you can use?
Yeah, I got my little book here. So it's just filled with all kinds of bullshit like that. So we might as well use it to keep track of everything else too.
Okay, beautiful. I love it. And what about a specific time that makes sense for you?
At the end of the day, right before bed, once it's kids all tucked in, and take myself 5-10 minutes and sit down, relax, and just decompress the day. I guess it's kind of a
Okay.
reflection too.
All right, beautiful. So that makes sense for you. You know, you got some free time and now you just gotta have the, the decision and then the discipline to follow through with that.
Mhm.
Okay, I love it. Awesome, Chris. Chris says, does anyone have a daily affirmation they use? Okay, I'll throw this out to the group here, but does anybody have a daily affirmation that they use?
I'll definitely hit Google up, but I just thought if somebody in the group had something that they were using and relied on that, sometimes it's more personal and find something a little closer to home.
Totally, yeah. Rajiv, you said you do have an affirmation that you use, Rajiv?
Yes, I do it off of YouTube.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get the link. Maybe I can just put the link that of the one I use, and I found to be really useful for me.
Okay, beautiful. Well, here, maybe Rajiv, could I ask you to do something for us? Would you
Absolutely, yeah.
would you be willing to share that in the chat on school for everybody, and that way we're able to capitalize on the combined intelligence of a mastermind group like this?
Yes, for sure.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Chris says that Innertune is an awesome affirmation app too. Cool. Right on, guys. Here's the thing, Chris, just to answer your question real quickly before I move on here. But a short little affirmation, like you can get as in-depth when it comes to affirmations as you like. And in the past, like I've had entire tutorials and lessons where I'll take hours to explain and break down what it is and why it works and why it's important. But you can do this when it comes to specific goals that you have in mind as far as things that you'd like to accomplish or achieve. But even something as simple as an affirmation that I use, it could also be thought of as kind of like setting an intention for the day. But one thing that I will repeat to myself every single morning is that today is going to be a great day. And that's something that I've got into the habit of doing. Before I even open my eyes, I start to tell myself that today is going to be a great day. And it's a little exercise that I've started sharing with my kids too. And if any of you guys have young kids and you can start to share that statement, what's really neat about this is that we all have a part of our brain called your reticular activating system. Okay, you don't have to remember that. Sometimes it's called your RAS for short, your reticular activating system. And that's the part of your brain that, like, have you ever bought a new vehicle and then you're driving around town and you start to see that vehicle everywhere? Yeah, we can all have experienced that to some extent, right? Well, that's your reticular activating system at work. And what that is that's a part of your brain, okay, that alerts your attention to things that are relevant to you. And the truth is that those vehicles are always there, but they've gone undetected, or they've gone, you've been unconscious or unaware of them until you do something like buy the new vehicle. And when you say a statement like today is going to be a great day, what happens is like a little nudge to your subconscious mind, and that part of your brain will go to work for you to start to notice and pick out all of the reasons why today is going to be a great day. And it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay. So yeah, something as simple like that. But Thomas has some information and some links he's going to share in the group chat too. Very cool. All right, maybe I have time for one more person. Anybody else care to share as far as their intention for this 14-day challenge, what they're committed to doing for the next 14 days?
Yeah, I can go here.
All right, Thomas, let's hear it, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna just use this whole challenge to challenge myself as an excuse, basically, for exercise. So, one of my goals is to run a half marathon in the summer,
Cool.
and I've got soccer finals and stuff coming up. So I just want to kind of use this as an excuse and have the accountability just to do some exercise every day and get training on the running and stuff like that. Maybe running to work and whatever. So
Beautiful. So committing to every day doing some physical activity.
every day, yeah.
Every day, beautiful. And that's one of those things that I really truly do believe that, something is better than nothing. And I don't know how many of you guys can relate, but sometimes I have this all or nothing mentality. And I think if I can't commit an hour to it, well, I just won't do anything.
Yeah, and I like it too, because a lot of that stuff will kind of relate and lead to other things that are beneficial to your life too. So like
Right.
I look at that whole list and I'm like, I want to do all of that, but it's just I'm choosing this one thing to do.
Right, totally. Okay, cool. Well, and here's the thing. Well, I appreciate you guys for sharing that. Okay. And here's the thing. I want to be really clear about something. Okay. And that's that whatever you choose to do is kind of arbitrary, to be honest with you. Okay. And it, it's small, and on some level it could be thought of as kind of inconsequential, but it has less to do with what you're doing and more to do with the fact that you're doing it. And what I mean is, like, the fact that you're like taking control and making a decision that I'm going to do something that benefits me, that betters me. And I'm telling you, when we talked before about how, like, progress equals happiness, it's like, man, when you make a decision that you're going to start to take action on some of these things, and you start small and you stack those wins, that progress lends itself to feelings of accomplishment, doesn't it? And like, that's that sense of pride, and it builds your energy. And that, my friends, is how you create momentum. And it's that momentum that you can carry forward to start to tackle some of the bigger challenges that I'm sure that we all have and that we all face. But I'm telling you, you got to start small and just stack those little wins. Okay. And together we can help to hold each other accountable. And so what my plan is here, and what I'd like to do, is to create a section in school for this 14-day challenge. And each day there's going to be a short little video. Okay. So I know that you guys are busy and everybody's got their lives and stuff like that, but I would encourage you to watch the short little video. It's a little bit of like a mindset training. And then if you guys do your activity for the day, just create a little, like, a check mark or write done or whatever it is, as far as accountability. Okay. Is that cool? Is that fair? Cool. And last but not least, there's some prizes for participation and for engagement. And I had somebody earlier this week ask me, why are you giving away prizes? Like, I don't need money. And it's like, I know, I get that, but like, I'm trying to get people excited and engaged. You guys might be surprised to learn that, man, sometimes it can be really tough to get people to give a shit about their own fucking life. You know what I mean? And so, like, the prize itself, again, is kind of inconsequential, but you guys, it's about the engagement and the participation. Get excited and build some energy. And together, I know that we can do this, because like I said, that accountability is so important, isn't it? All right, cool, guys. Well, hey, before I let you run, any questions, any last comments, anything that anybody wants to care to share here before I let you guys go? Chris.
Hey guys, as a group, we got this. We got each other's back. This is where it starts, and let's ride this out and help each other.
I love it, Chris. Right on, man.
Yeah.
Rajiv, good stuff. Jonas, very cool. All right, guys. Anybody else? Any last questions before we sign off then? Does everybody have an action item that they've committed to in their own mind written down? All right, so here's what I'll do. I'm gonna create a post there, and I would encourage everybody to state what they're committing to publicly for the next 14 days. Is that cool? All right, guys. Well, hey, if there's nothing else, I'll let you run and enjoy the rest of your evening. But looking forward to it, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care and keep in touch.
Thanks, Matt.
Rock on, guys.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Night, guys.
You bet, guys.
See ya.